Good morning. This public forum on the proposed change in the authority's preference power rates is being conducted pursuant to a power authority policy adopted by the trustees in 1990. My name is Michelle Stockwell, and I am the authority's Associate Corporate Secretary. This public forum is not required by law, is being held in addition to the State Administrative Procedure Act process, the SAPA process, which provides for a 60-day public comment period begun on October 8, 2025, and is scheduled to end on December 8, 2025. The purpose of this forum is to offer affected customers and the public an opportunity to present data, views, and positions for the authority's trustees to consider prior to taking final action on the proposed rate change. This forum will not include a question and answer segment, so please use your time to share your thoughts, concerns, and insight. We are here to listen. If you plan to make an oral statement, please provide your name and affiliation to staff on entering. Also, if you have a written statement, you can mail or email it to the corporate secretary. Both oral and written statements will be included in the official record. The record will remain open for additional comments through close of business Monday, December 8, 2025. Additional comments should be mailed or emailed to the corporate secretary at 123 Main Street, 9B, White Plains, New York, 10601. The email address is secretaries.office@niapa.gov. At this point, I would like to introduce Scott Tenman, the authority's Senior Vice President of Finance, who will provide additional details on the proposed rate change.
Thank you, Ms. Stockwell, and good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Tetman, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Finance at the New York Power Authority. I'm here today to present an overview of the modifications being proposed by NYPA to the hydroelectric preference power rates, referred to as the 2026 rate plan. By this action, the authority is proposing a 6-year rate plan covering the period April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2032. The proposed increases in the preference power rates would be the first rate increase since 2014. The proposed preference power rates, based on a 70% load factor, are $14.57 per megawatt hour, effective April 1st, 2026, $16.25, effective April 1st, 2027, $17.94, effective April 1st, 2028, $19.63, effective April 1st, 2029, $21.32, effective April 1st, 2030, and $23 even, effective April 1st, 2031. The current preference power rate is $12.88 per megawatt hour. Now, even with the proposed rate increases, preference power rates are still expected to remain significantly lower than the projected market rates throughout the rate plan. The public comment period under SAPA and this public forum are intended as opportunities for the public and customer input into the authority's preference power rate-making process in accordance with both SAPA and the authority's policies. To that end, the authority staff has been working with the customers and responding to inquiries in a timely and thorough manner. Staff will consider all comments raised during the public comment period, including those made today during this public forum. The staff will present their analysis, findings, and recommendations to the trustees at the conclusion of the public comment period. I will now provide some background on the authority's preference rates, recent history, and the cost components that make up the rate. After that, I will describe in more detail the current rate proposal, including the primary drivers of the rate increase. Now, the authority's preference power rates apply to the customers that purchase hydroelectric preference power supplied from the authority's Niagara and St. Lawrence hydroelectric projects. The major customer groups are the 47 municipal electric systems and 4 rural electric cooperatives located in the state, 3 upstate investor-owned utilities, for the benefit of their residential customers, the neighboring state customers, two transportation authorities, and the Niagara Project relicensing host communities. As I previously mentioned, NYPA last changed its preference power rates in 2014 based upon the 2011 rate modification plan. The 2011 modification plan phased in preference power rates to the cost-based rate with increases over 4 years. Approved by the NYPA Board of Trustees on November 1st, 2011, the final rate under this plan, made effective May 1st, 2014, was $12.88 per megawatt hour, which is still in effect today. NYPA has been providing preference power to customers at this rate for the past 11.5 years. In December 2024, the authority proposed a rulemaking to increase preference power rates for the first time since 2014. And then in March of 2025, NYPA withdrew the 2024 proposed preference power rulemaking in response to affordability concerns raised by Governor Kathy Hochul and several customer groups. Now, subsequently, at the request of its customers, NYPA actively re-engaged with its preference power rate customers through their association or representatives by providing technical analytics, communicating the need for a rate change, and gathering customer feedback and support for the rate change. In September of 2025, NYPA proposed the 2026 rate plan. This rate plan reflects lower rates than NYPA had proposed in 2024 and addresses customer feedback expressed during the prior rulemaking process. This rate plan represents less than 3% annual increases on total bills for end-use customers each year of the 2026 rate plan. The hydro cost of service of the Niagara and St. Lawrence facilities is attached to the September 23rd, 2025 trustee memorandum initiating the SAPA process. NYPA incorporated rate-making methodologies in this hydro cost of service that have been adopted previously with some changes which I will describe. Many of these methodologies stem from the April 2003 final rate action approved by the trustees and agreed to by preference power rate customers who were active parties in the 2003 rate proceeding, continued in NYPA's 2007 preference rate action, and then used again with modifications in the development of the 2011 rate plan. The total hydro project's cost, net of unforced capacity or UCAP and ancillary service revenue credits, are $326 million, $360 million, $359 million, $369 million, $380 million, and $390 million for the 2026 to 2023 calendar years, respectively. The principal cost drivers responsible for the increases are the past and projected capital investments at the facilities. In fact, since the 2011 rate plan and through 2024, NYPA has invested over $1.2 billion in plant and equipment at the hydro projects. NYPA has also initiated its next generation Niagara Modernization and Digitization Project, a capital investment program to replace end-of-life assets with new and modern plant and equipment, with an expected cost of $1.1 billion over the 2017 through 2039 time period. Additionally, the authority has experienced inflationary pressure on its operating and maintenance expenses, including administrative and general expenses. Now, the Rate Stabilization Reserve, or RSR, is a contractual mechanism NYPA uses to ensure rate stability and which also provide guidance on rate making. The RSR balance is determined on an annual basis and calculates the difference between actual costs and revenues collected through preference power rates. Based on recent RSR calculations, the authority is under recovering its costs under the existing preference power rates. The 2026 rate plan introduces a gradual increase in rates over a 6-year period from April 1st, 2026 through March 31st, 2032. Additionally, the rate plan includes updated cost and revenue projections and a change in methodology that lowers the cost of capital. The 2026 rate plan includes several rate-making methodology changes to develop the preference power rate, demonstrates our commitment to minimize costs, and to provide administrative simplicity and transparency within the cost recovery process. First, to address customer concerns about rising costs, NYPA is proposing to cap and fix the recovery of its operational and general costs. The 2025 through 2031 gross administrative and general expenses, or A&G expense recovery, will be based on 2023 actual expenses, which were $212,665,707, which will be escalated by 4% annually through 2031 and will not be reconciled to actual A&G experienced in those years. However, allocated A&G will be reconciled through the RSR based on annual updates to the labor ratio. Similarly, the 2025 through 2031 O&M expense recovery will be fixed and not subject to reconciliation. Any direct O&M related to emergent work at the Niagara and St. Lawrence facilities will continue to be subject to reconciliation through the RSR. Further, NYPA staff proposes the following adjustments to the treatment of ancillary services and UCAP credits in the hydro cost of service on a permanent basis. The treatment of ancillary services will now be the same as the treatment of merchant UCAP revenues, wherein ancillary services revenues are credited to the hydro cost of service and reconciled to actuals through the RSR. The UCAP credit for the hydro cost of service will be calculated based on the assumption that all excess UCAP related to the hedge portion, specifically bilateral transactions, will be priced in the cost of service at the monthly average of the rest of state UCAP auction prices in the wholesale market using an equally weighted average of the prices in all NYSO UCAP auction markets. NYPA will continue to hedge its capacity portfolio in its sole discretion based upon internal policies and market conditions, and will make an adjustment to reflect wholesale market pricing for hydro cost of service purposes only. Second is a change to the recovery of capital costs. Prior to the 2026 rate plan, NYPA used a modified trended original cost methodology for assets funded with equity and the original cost methodology for assets funded with debt. These methodologies required NYPA to track all asset vintages. Now, due to a change in the depreciation rate methodology that NYPA follows in 2021, which involved a move to group depreciation, NYPA no longer tracks individual assets by vintage in its accounting system. NYPA proposes to adopt a more traditional rate-making methodology of rate base times cost of capital for determining its capital recovery. Moving forward, the cost of capital will be defined as NYPA's actual long-term debt rate. NYPA's long-term debt rate, currently 4.4%, represents a lower cost of capital than initially contemplated in the 2024 proposal. Now, this change in capital cost recovery methodology offsets other cost drivers in the rate plan, thus producing a more modest rate impact. Next, to reduce volatility in the RSR balance caused by fluctuations in actual energy generated from the plant and in response to customer feedback, NYPA will now use a 5-year average of actual generation for the cost-based rate calculation, replacing the traditional long-term average generation. Previously described changes, including the crediting of ancillary services and UCAP revenues and the new capital cost recovery methodology to the hydro cost of service, will be used in the RSR reconciliation. Lastly, NYPA staff proposes to eliminate normalization of the Recharge New York load as the program is nearly fully subscribed, and further administrative simplifications of the RSR calculation for ease of understanding. Now, as per the customer request, NYPA further proposes that 50% of each year's rate increase is to be covered through the demand rate and the remaining 50% through the energy rate. The resulting energy rates are as follows: $5.76 per megawatt hour effective April 1st, 2026, $6.61 per megawatt hour effective April 1st, 2027, $7.45 per megawatt hour effective April 1st, 2028, $8.29 per megawatt hour effective April 1st, 2029, $9.14 per megawatt hour effective April 1st, 2030, and $9.98 per megawatt hour effective April 1st, 2031. And the resulting demand rates are as follows: $4.50 per kilowatt month effective April 1st, 2026, $4.93 per kilowatt month effective April 1st, 2027, $5.36 per kilowatt month effective April 1st, 2028, $5.79 per kilowatt month effective April 1st, 2029, $6.22 per kilowatt month effective April 1st, 2030, and $6.65 per kilowatt month effective April 1st, 2031. As NYPA's Assistant Corporate Secretary, Michelle Stockwell, stated earlier, the authority will also accept written comments on the proposed rates through December 8th, 2025. And I will now turn the forum back to Ms. Stockwell.
Thank you, Mr. Thunman. At this time, do we have speakers at our Albany location who wish to comment?
We do. Yes, we do.
Okay, in that case, I will now hand the forum over to Alex Chiavel, the authority's media relations specialist, to call on speakers.
Thank you, Michelle. Our first speaker today is Andrew McMahon. Andrew.
Stand here?
You do? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew McMahon, and I am the superintendent of the Messina Electric Department. I am also on the executive committee of the New York Association of Public Power, or NIAP, and I speak on their behalf today. NIAP advocates for municipal electric utilities and rural electric co-ops that are preference power customers of NYPA. By law, preference power customers are entitled to purchase power from NYPA at cost-based rates. My focus and that of my colleagues who run the municipal and cooperative utilities is to provide reliable service at affordable rates for our citizen-owned and local businesses. In December of 2024, NYPA proposed a rate increase based on unilateral changes in rate design that were not consistent with NYPA's commitments to supply power at cost-based rates. In January of this year, I spoke out against NYPA's proposal along with a number of my colleagues and others. We thought the initial proposal was unjustified, was not affordable, and was foregoing important rate-setting precedent. I'm happy to say that NYPA ultimately listened to our concerns and pulled back its initial proposal. We have been able to collaborate on this new proposal that is more affordable and in keeping with NYPA's requirement to sell power at cost-based rates to preference power customers. Further, this proposal acknowledges key rate-making principles as guidelines for future rate cases. While any rate case is unpleasant, on behalf of MED and NIAP, I can say we are comfortable that this proposed increase is appropriate and is consistent with our contract and the relevant statutes. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Andrew. Our next speaker is Jim Stokes. Jim.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jim Stokes. I'm the Executive Director of the Municipal Electric Utilities Association of New York State, a association of 40 municipal electric systems throughout upstate New York. I spoke at the forum in Niagara earlier this week, so I will be brief. I'm not here to offer repetitive comments or bore you, but The purpose in being here today is to express and emphasize MUA and its member systems' strong support for the adoption of this rate plan as proposed. Affordability for our retail customers of our member systems is of the utmost importance. But from MUA's perspective, so is the maintenance and enhancement of the resource that is the Niagara Power Project. It's of critical importance going forward in the years to come. We feel this rate plan accomplishes both objectives to the best degree possible, and we urge the trustees to approve it as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. As no one else has signed up to speak at the forum, we will recess and reconvene as more speakers arrive. Thank you.
All right, we are back in open session. I will now hand the forum over to Alex to call on another speaker.
Thank you, Michelle. Our next speaker is Sam Romero. Sam?
Oh, hi, my name is Sam Romero. I'm from Del Mar, New York. And I'm here to address the New York Power Authority as an ally to the Tonawanda Seneca Nation, a federally recognized Indigenous nation and part of the Haudenosaunee. As a concerned resident of New York State, I wish to reiterate comments that have already been provided to NYPA by the Tonawanda Seneca Nation Council of Chiefs with respect to allocations of low-cost hydropower sought by tenants at the Western New York Science and Technology Advanced Manufacturing Park, mega industrial site in Alabama, New York. To date, NYPA has already allocated 64,900 kilowatts to stamp tenants, 4,900 kilowatts of replacement power to Edwards Vacuum LLC, and 10,000 kilowatts of expansion power plus 50,000 kilowatts of replacement power to Plug Power Incorporated. While the hearing today does not explicitly pertain to the low-cost WNY hydropower program as established by PAL 1005-13A, given the finite supply of hydropower produced at the Niagara Power Project, the nation believes that changes to the preference power rate plan must be considered in conjunction with decisions pertaining to allocations of this finite resource to industrial customers such as those at STAMP. These important allocations are in fact inextricably connected and should not be considered separately. In an April 28, 2025 letter to NYPA, CEO Justin Driscoll, the Tonawanda Seneca Nation requested the following demands, which I hereby reiterate. As a courtesy, the nation requests that NYPA directly inform them in the event there are low-cost power allocation requests made for projects at STAMP. The nation voices its strong opposition to any allocation of low-cost hydropower to a data center at the STAMP mega industrial site, which is located in Seneca ancestral territory, adjacent to and upstream from the nation's treaty-confirmed reservation territory. STAMP possesses a profound threat to Tonawanda Seneca people, their reservation territory, and the surrounding environment. By its nature, a data center would fail to meet NYPA's statutory criteria for low-cost power allocations on the following grounds. 1, location outside statutory 30-mile zone. 2, terrible jobs to power ratio. 3, no significant benefits for Western New York. 4, short project lifespan. And 5, poor job security stability. Because data centers fail to meet the criteria established by the legislature for allocation of low-cost hydropower, NYPA should reject any application for such power from a data center operator at STAMP. Because the nation is a disadvantaged community, under the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, CLCPA, New York Environmental Conservation Law 75-0101, NYPA must conduct analysis required by CLCPA Statute 7.3 before approving any application for a project at STAMP. Statute 7.3 prohibits state agencies from issuing permits, licenses, and other administrative approvals and decisions that disproportionately burden disadvantaged communities. I wish to raise an additional point. In recent weeks, Stamp Tenant Plug Power has announced its intention to monetize its electricity rights in New York State and has indicated its intent to sell these rights to a data center developer. This is outrageous and unacceptable. Plug Power must not be allowed to monetize its electricity rights to Stamp, which never should have been allocated to Plug in the first place, given its utter failure to meet the criteria established in PAL 1005-13A. That is it.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
comments. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
We will recess now as no further speakers are signed up. We will reconvene as more speakers arrive. Thank you.
Okay, it's now 3 p.m. As previously stated, the record of the forum will remain open for additional comments through close of business December 8, 2025. The November 20th, 2025 public forum on the proposed increase in rates for authorities' preference power is now officially closed. Thank you and good day.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank
Thank you.